This is Things I Found Online, starring Joe Cipriano, Larry Morgan, and the lovely and talented Louise Palanker. Brace for excitement. Radio legends are looking at life through the lens of the internet. And today, Lair, it's College Break Week Part 2. Our panel is stocked with millennials, and the students have become the teachers. This class will be covering absurdism, deaf memes, dating apps, and weird subreddits. Pay attention, Louise.
It was so scary.
I wasn't scared.
Yeah, I'm glad he didn't.
I don't have my pencil.
Let's do take two.
I'm glad he didn't say there was going to be algebra. I was hoping there would be no math.
Part 3 next week.
No,
Stay tuned.
So
I'm
to that
very
one.
excited to be in the studio. We have a group of millennials, and this was a very popular class because when they found out that they were going to get to be the teachers, they were like, I'll take that class.
All over that.
What does it pay? So we have in the studio...
Wait, what does it pay?
Yeah. Well, much like real teachers, not anything.
we have Dan, Jilly, Ryan, and Jake. We're going to start with Dan because Dan is almost creeping towards the edge of millennialism.
I'm sort of like a senior millennial.
Yeah, I would say so.
Right.
Yeah.
Generation Y. Is there a tiny group of 4 years that
So
can
you've been adulting for how many years?
About as long as the Buffalo Bills have been out of the playoffs.
Wow.
So
All right.
17.
Quite a while.
If we're keeping track.
Since
Quite a while.
76. Okay. So you're a professional comedian.
Yes. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your career and where we can find you and online, because this is about life
online stuff.
Yeah.
You can find me on the Tweeter. I like to do the tweets.
What's your tweet name?
I'm the Dan Lawler.
The Dan Lawler.
Because there was already another Dan
Oh,
Lawler.
I hate him.
Yeah. But he's not the one. I'm the one.
No, you are.
Yeah.
You can find me.
Right.
The Dan Lawler.
I'm going to go look at you now.
Yeah, look at the Dan Lawler.
I'm going to look at you in person while you do it.
Thank you.
But you can also find me around LA.
Somewhat
I do,
creepy. Yay.
I do
is a little bit.
stand up at the Comedy Store and all over. Do Jeff Ross's roast battle.
Oh,
cool.
nice.
Ooh.
Yeah.
It's a great way to feel bad about yourself. It's my favorite one.
That's some throwdown right there.
Yeah.
Do you know
yeah.
my good friend Sarah Tiana?
I do, sure.
she's
yeah.
awesome.
She is hilarious. She's one of the best ones there.
Yeah, we should have her in sometime.
Yeah.
And then we have Jilly, who's still in college, USC.
Yay.
We've got
Yay, go Trojans.
Ryan, still in college, RIT, another Rochester guy.
Nice.
Ooh.
Dan Lawler's from Rochester.
Oh, two Rochesters.
But at Syracuse.
You guys, you know how to use
I
the...
was very confused.
Oh,
Wait a minute.
Syracuse, sorry.
At Syracuse, though.
Oh, you
So
got
you
a
guys,
thing.
you got to use the mic. Like, seriously. Like the old days.
Like the old days.
Yeah, he goes to Syracuse,
Right up on the...
Okay.
Yeah.
which is a piece down the 90.
Yeah, it's just.
And then we have Jake, who's at
Hi.
Harvey Mudd.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
can you see him at all?
Is Harvey
I'm
Mudd
a
is
blood
cool?
pink in the
there.
left
Harvey
down
Mudd.
here. Hi.
Harvey Mudd is technology and smarty pants boys
Wow.
and girls.
Oh.
Right?
Where is that located?
It is in Claremont. We are one of
Oh.
the 5 Claremont colleges.
Wow. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
So he can set up your printer, whatever you need.
That's how computer science works. I'm at school to help my grandma compress files for the email.
Wow. And so how did their football team
Money
do this
well
season?
spent. Not
We
good,
don't
but their
even-
stats are on point.
Exactly.
So,
They
all right.
they know exactly how bad they are.
So, Jake, my nephew, he shared with me some of what's going on in Meme Land. Who's been to Meme Land? Anybody?
Oh, I've been there.
Yeah.
I don't have season tickets, but I stop by.
It's scary. Who's dinging? Is that you, Joe?
I think it might be.
Oh, man.
Sorry. There we go.
All right,
He's
volume.
got to do another voiceover
I am-
gig while
Someone's
we're here.
really, really trying to reach you. Your phone is now flat.
I see. Thank you.
So in Meme Land, the kids have caught a hold of something called absurdity, and they that's all the rage. And they think that they're just on the cutting edge.
Yeah.
And I'm here to teach them otherwise. They think they're here to teach me. What's happening sort of with absurd memes is that you can amend. So everybody's just sort of doing a newer version and making it twist upon itself to eventually it's completely unrecognizable.
Yeah.
Sort of like jazz. But my point is, it happens in real time. Right? And so Jake sent me a link. Do you have that link for us, Dina? It's the first link. Oh, that's me showing the kids that they're not such smarty pants after all.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, yeah. Why is millennial humor so weird?
Yeah.
Jake?
Do tell.
Why?
Is that my job right now? Is to segue into
Yeah.
a little bit?
Explain meme culture in your
Yeah.
generation.
For the
So-
generation.
This is me. I'm the millennial. I can talk for all of us.
Good.
memes online kind of follow this weird format where there are like waves where a new meme comes out, and it's all of our jobs instantly to like beat it to death, beat the horse to death.
Right.
So once a new meme format comes out, it's not just about like, ooh, I got to get in on that, I got to make memes with this new format. It's about specifically, we're so used to this new trend where something new happens and then it's instantly not funny in 2 weeks later that we like beat it to death so hard that we have to like make fun of the fact that we beat it to death.
Right.
And we have to like, for example, if you have a meme that has any amount of text as the format, people will like crop out the letters to make it spell different things as like a joke about itself.
yes,
So like,
yeah.
even if the meme comes with some sense of formatting or like when it should be used or why, we've taken to the point of like abstracting it far away enough that it's just a general concept now that has nothing to do with it. And as Louise will like to point out, this kind of sense of making self-awareness and making fun of the times in which we live and the ways in which we create art is nothing new, I don't think.
Well, yeah, I was just
Wow.
going to sort of make the point that,
Oh, yes.
you know,
Oh.
people reaching adulthood and going, isn't life ironic, isn't exactly new. You know,
Does a good millennial want to explain the Snapchat hot dog thing?
oh yeah,
I can explain the communism.
Oh, there we go.
I mean, the Snapchat hot dog guy.
Yeah.
So Snapchat has their filters, right? And they come
Right.
out with new ones all the time. And one of them was this little 3D animated hot dog, and you
That's
could
a
put
funny
him
one.
really anywhere, and he would just dance around. And people fell in love with him, and he kind of grew into a meme because people loved him. Although it's not really in the same category as a lot of other memes. It kind of came from a very mainstream place because it came from Snapchat.
Right.
So it's a little different in that regard.
all right. So what's going on here for those of us who are listening at home to the audio podcast?
Yeah, so there's this great painting of like the great lineage of Soviet history kind of thing. That there's a lot of depictions of it where it's like you got to go all the way from Marx to Stalin, and isn't this such a great bunch of folks?
And then a hot
it's-
dog.
With
Yes,
great
so-
facial hair too.
Oh yes, they're good at that. And so the last one is our Snapchat
Yes.
hot dog man. This is not always in this format, but this has been done countless times with countless different people. Actually,
Yeah.
the new trend, because apparently everything on the internet that has something to do with politics for some reason has something to do with anime. You'll often see anime characters in that fifth slot, which I don't know why.
I think
Yeah.
I
I don't
understand this
know
one,
that.
Jake.
Yeah.
Is that communism works as a concept, just as that hot dog looks delicious, but after you consume it,
wow.
it's no good.
Yeah, I
It's no
think you're-
bueno.
I think you're digging way too deep on this. Well, I think one example for those of us who are much more grown up and have barely any idea what they're talking about, there are these pop culture moments or political moments. The one that immediately comes to mind that honestly to me was hysterical was the Chris Christie sitting on the beach.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
The string of things that
Yeah.
people did with that, and when that one went on, I want to say weeks,
It
and it
sure
was
seemed
still
like it, yeah.
funny, and
Yeah.
people were still coming up with inventive ways to do it. But then you're right, that would meld into some other pop culture meme moment, so they would end up kind of meeting each other, and that they don't make any sense at all necessarily, but because we're all in on the joke, supposedly, if we've been paying attention, then there's a reason that's funny, I guess. But to me, it's more a matter of how inventive people get in placing these juxtapositions in the same photograph. And it's a fleeting thing. It's not like, oh, I'm going to print a poster of that and put it on my wall like I did growing up.
Right.
Yeah, it's
when-
kind of like, what else can you think of?
Yeah.
But it is an artistic expression, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
To some degree.
Yeah.
I mean, I think just kind of to elaborate on the point that with the Chris Christie thing, it lasted for a while. I think part of it is like the speed of consumption is why it changes so much. If you're on Reddit regularly, like there are new memes every 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Depending on where you are.
With the same image.
Right. And so
Yeah.
the way they get shared is a lot faster. So I think that has to do with why, with what Jake was talking about, why there's such a quick change from one meme to the next and immediately one becomes unfunny.
It also depends
Wow.
on, I think, what the mainstream media or lamestream media, what they pick up and put out to kind of the general public.
Right.
There is the Reddit world, which I don't sit there and just I don't let myself fall in the Reddit rabbit hole that much because I could literally be there all day exploring. But I do some research for the radio station I work for, and so I kind of see what the hottest stuff is. But there is stuff that CNN will pick up, and suddenly they'll just make a story about that, and then kind of a wider.
But by then
it's
pretty much
know.
over, isn't it? I mean, by the time it ends up on the Today Show, it's like, oh my God, this is
like there was the swimsuit meme from this last year. Instagram. Some Instagram account wanted to promote their red swimsuit, so they paid anybody who posted this image. So hundreds of thousands of people posted it, and they immediately it became a meme while I think they were still paying people to do this thing, but they were just like, it lasted for maybe a week.
Yeah,
and it was everywhere.
The idea was if you posted the photo of the swimsuit, you would get that swimsuit for free. So everyone was like, great, all I have to do is post a photo and I get a free swimsuit. And they had no idea it was going to take off like that, and they couldn't give away that
There's
big
not
swimsuit.
enough swimsuits in the world to cover you people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or was it a scam? They knew that it was going to take off.
We'll never know.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but it the speed at which this stuff catches on, and then the next idea, because everybody kind of thinks creatively, even when Twitter has some hashtag that is, urging you to come up with a pun, song titles with my mother's baby names, I don't know. Like, or
what is your mother's baby
Runa
name?
Hatton.
Wouldn't that just be your name?
I don't know, but
there is stuff that just lasts forever. There are phrases that end up just regenerating over and over again to the point where people are doing specific things for like your friend's birthday. It's like you can look up "Hold My Beer" and click on images. Oh yeah, and then there's 8,000 "Hold My Beer" memes.
There's an entire subreddit of just "Hold My Beer."
Yeah, and that's still going.
Yeah,
people are doing that for birthday wishes for their coworkers.
Right,
and we can do it so quickly. But in olden days, you had to walk into an art gallery, see that Andy Warhol had painted a soup can, and then go home and say, "What could I paint that would be equally absurd?" And it took
a while.
The paint had to dry.
It took 32,
or you had to go to the T-shirt shop to get the individual letters, the felt letters ironed on, and a week later and go back and get your "Sit on It, Potsy" shirt. Your unlicensed. That's "Sit on It, Potsy" is a phrase. That's from the series Happy Days.
Happy Days, eh?
Yeah, in the 70s. Never mind.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it took longer to be original and to try to be creatively funny. But the concept of being just ridiculously, ironically absurd or nihilistic or whatever the catchphrase of the day was in terms of blending your mood with some sort of philosophy. If people did it, it just was slower. So here we have, if you click on the next link,
So
Dina,
interesting. Yeah.
we have absurdism. And I looked up the definition on the Wikipedia. Absurdism is the conflict between the human tendency to seek inherent value and meaning in life and the human inability to find any. In this context, absurd does not mean logically impossible, but rather humanly impossible. So do you have the link of like absurdism in the 50s? So you have like businessman in space and oh wow, and that should become a meme like instantly. I think people should start on it right now. And just scroll down the page and you'll see some of the other 50s images of people putting out a fire underwater, and how could that be? Because it's water.
That's absurd.
Yeah. It sure is, Dan. And then I don't know what that is.
I'm not sure what that is.
Someone's
Is that a rocket?
painting the jet age or something. Yeah. And then you can go further back to Dadaism. How many kids here remember Dadaism? So Dadaism is like anti-art, anti-war, anti-bourgeoisie.
Ooh, bourgeoisie.
Movement, and you can click on the next link, Dina. And this was the 20s. And the 20s, we weren't there for it, but from what I understand, the 20s were on fire. They were just crazy because there was nothing else to do.
Right.
And there may or may not have been prohibition. I should study my history. But
Well, yeah, that was part of the problem is that there was prohibition, but everybody found a way to get around it.
Right, that was the day of the speakeasy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
So in Bloomington at the university, and if you scroll down, there was this group of kids that kind of were influenced by German absurdism art, and they created this club where they would do performance art. Like they were Yoko before Yoko was a thing, and they were just like crazy and kind of just bizarro land.
It seems like it's usually a generation who's trying to take the stuffing out of the,
Yes.
you know, it's
Right.
like that Harvard Lampoon, for instance,
Right.
when that
Yes.
was founded, and it became a humor magazine, but then it became this anti-establishment kind of thing, and then that begat the National Lampoon.
Right.
And
Sure.
most of those guys went on to the original Saturday Night Live, which again was
Into more
kind of-
mainstream. Yeah.
And it's just young people going, how can we scare the crap out of our parents?
Yep.
And,
True.
And I,
That's
I
right.
don't think that part of human nature has changed, but I do believe that the internet is changing us. So how do you guys feel we're going to be affected by the rapidity within which we can kind of out-absurd each other or shock or amuse or, you know, just that urge to go back online and say, oh, I can add to this conversation. How is that going to change, or how is it changing the way we think and the way we behave? Jilly?
Well, I think it's more that we want to be part of the conversation. Like, I think we go online to be a part of a community. We go online to be part of like this feeling or to find that feeling that, you know, I think we, you know, if it's that absurdism, if it's, you know, that, you know, growing up and being an adult and that, you know, ironic, you know, that we've been talking about, you know, we're going online to kind of add to that conversation, to reinvent that feeling or that meme or to share that post. So I think it's just going to kind of keep, you know, amplifying and magnifying maybe into something else or evolving into something else. But I think it's, you know, we go online to find community now.
Right,
That we
exactly.
could, you know,
It
that we
couldn't-
find in.
it couldn't be done
Yeah.
before. You know, any kind of communication would be, well, you know, we do radio. Radio is really kind of a one-sided sort of communication.
Right.
Anybody who had the microphone was doing the communicating, and the rest of us were listening, and maybe you can call in and all of that. But now everyone has the microphone. So everybody has that opportunity to interact with each other on a grand scale. I mean, a radio station maybe can only cover the Los Angeles area, but when you're on the internet, you have worldwide coverage, which is amazing.
Every form of media now also has the ability for somebody to weigh in immediately.
Yeah.
I mean, I may be on the radio, but I'm also on Twitter and got and the station has a
True,
Facebook
that's right,
page,
and you're getting feedback
Somebody
immediately.
could tell us
Yeah.
immediately that they don't like what they're hearing or what we
Yeah.
said.
And they do.
And they do, and they're probably doing it right now to
But,
us.
but what a gift! I mean, to be in the generation where you can do that.
Well, it's a
express
gift
yourself.
I mean, I think it comes with a lot of baggage too. But to Wheezy's point, I'm just wondering, because from our point of view, from our generation's point of view, Wheezy's talking about all of this going so fast. Does it seem fast to
Oh,
you?
good
I mean,
question.
Is it just this is kind of the nature of what your life is? You
It's
guys
fast to us.
You guys have grown up with the internet. You don't know a world without it. And we've seen that transition come in, and we're talking
Digital natives.
Yeah,
is the
we're
term.
talking about things happening in a much more kind of word of mouth, organic way from person to person. And now something like a meme can happen within seconds and be literally worldwide in a short amount of time.
From my experience, I think that it does move quickly if you try to keep up with it. If you just
Right.
if you're more a spectator and you see these things and you wait until there's one that connects with you or that you connect with, and then you can join in, then you can be part of that fast-paced thing. But if you're trying to stay on top of the trends and you're trying to always be relevant and put out the new memes and get in, then for me it is very fast.
It's exhausting.
Yes. Oh, it's
Because
impossible.
Because
there's-
that's not a conversation. That's just
Right.
like a
A
competition.
competition.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. It's one-upsman.
Yeah.
But so much of life is a competition, and so much of what we do is inherently competitive. I mean, Dan does stand-up, and I know when you get off stage, you sit there and you watch the next guy and see how his laughs compare to yours. That's just that doesn't make you a jerk. That makes you human. That's just like, how am I doing? Like, we're always going to be measuring ourselves against each other. And when you have the whole internet to compete with over a meme, like, you're not going to have the funniest meme. You might, but
no, you're not.
yeah, but no, you're not.
No.
It moves.
And also, invariably, your meme is the exact same meme somebody else came up
Well,
with.
that's
with a
true.
different image. You
Yeah.
know, it's very rare that you're coming up with something completely original.
Well, and
original,
memes
yeah.
aren't even just completely sequestered to images. Just a phrase can be a meme, and that's what you find. That's what I find a lot of time in comedy Twitter is if you're following the popular joke formats, which are memes, especially if you're on the hashtag, if you're on, hashtag make a movie with a squid in shorts or whatever it is, someone is going to have someone will have the exact same joke, and some people will be really mad about it, and and they'll get into a battle, and it's like, well, you're using one thing and trying to be super different. You're trying to be different by wearing the same clothes as your classmates.
Yeah.
You can't do it.
Oh, and that is the constant struggle, right? Like, how do I stand out and fit in?
Well, to that end,
Irony. Hey.
to that end, and it kind of plays into it with the absurdism you were talking about and the speed of how fast these things move. There's a certain comedy and irony in how fast they move, and
Right.
it's self-aware. So if you go to there are subreddits like deep fried memes, where memes go to get beyond beaten to death. It's an extent where all you recognize is the format of the meme. You can't really see
Right.
what it is anymore. The text doesn't make any grammatical sense,
Right.
and it's still funny, and it's absurdist in that element that you recognize it, but it doesn't make any
Like
sense.
making a copy of a copy of a copy
Exactly.
of a copy, and suddenly
Until
it
you
starts
can't
just
see
kind
it.
of break
Yeah, you can't
apart.
even see it
Exactly.
anymore.
So it's self-aware. in that
Wow.
regard.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Jake sent me another article, and apparently
He's got you reading a lot.
the
doesn't
boy
he?
has
Yeah.
the boy has me reading this week. He's
Yeah.
given me some homework, and this one is called "Why Does Everyone on the Internet Want to Die?" So this is taking memes a step darker, and apparently in this age group, the ultimate thing is proclaiming your death wish. So because it's almost like what could go further than that?
Yeah.
So it's like I've reached adulthood, and this is what it is. I'm Peggy Lee, reference for the kids.
Oh, good God.
Lee.
Is that all there is?
Okay.
Wow, that's
I'm
a little-
so glad,
Kill me.
I'm so glad we did something infinitely older than my Happy Days reference. Thank you for topping Sit on It, Potsy. For me.
Holy cow.
My pleasure. So apparently there's a lot of this, and it was unbeknownst to me that there were so many people professing a wish to just perish. But
Was it
So-
specifically to die, or how they are
it's
going
like,
to or want to?
is this what life is? Kill me.
Ah.
That's
So if
basically.
we want to look at the,
Okay,
the
let's see.
article real quick, the post right there has, so it's a tweet, and the caption is 2017 mood, which is just saying, this is the current year we are living in. This is the mood that we all collectively kind of feel about the year. I guess now it's not the year we're living in.
Right.
But, you will be immediately killed by this action. Proceed, ? And the mouse is clicking over the check mark, and it says
wow.
accept.
Wow.
So, this is an example of the kind of process where it's like the meme is this feeling of just like, oh, kill me, kind of teenage angst when met up against this, as we just talking about, we're kind of all living this we're past our teenage angst years, but we're so full of angst because the future is just kind of terrible anyway.
Yeah.
So this feeling of oh, kill me, oh, I want to die kind of thing, where some of it might be legitimate, depression, cry for help stuff, but
Right.
a lot of it is just this current atmosphere of we made it all the way into being kind of adults, and we have literally no interest in this physical form or this world we've been cursed with. It's terrible.
Well, it was that kind of year where there was so much talk about. I mean,
True.
It filters down from at the very top of kind of the political spectrum, everything from do we have missiles pointed at us from North Korea? People are constantly talking about what sort of hellscape apocalypse we're going to walk into when the current president really has his way, and that becomes the tone. I mean, and everybody's fighting with each other and yelling and
And also is different. It resonates with me differently. When you're my age, you are pretty close to dying. I mean, let's face it. So it's a whole different.
it could happen any
Yeah,
second. with
any
Joe.
moment. Yeah.
Well, I think that there's also an element of our generation having been exposed to so much through media. We're always trying to find a way to say the strongest thing we can possibly say because
Sure.
we become desensitized. So the amount of things we see that have to do with death, if you just are saying, this year kind of sucked, it seems so low key and so irrelevant. So you need to find a way to be as strong as you can. with it.
Dramatic.
A little-
I just
What
the
could,
most
what could
extra.
be
What
worse
could
than
be-
death.
Yeah.
Exactly.
A little
So I think
more
there's a part of that
shocking.
as well.
Yeah.
I love the last meme that we had on the screen there, that last image, because it's so relatable at the beginning. It says, I can't wait to stick my fork into all of these. You got these pancakes and cake and spaghetti and an outlet.
Right. So Dina, click on the various examples that I pulled up for everybody to see the kind of, just like this one just says, this ATM has a defibrillator next to it for when you see how effing poor you are. And that's like
that's
adult life.
great.
You're going to slam with all your college debt, and then there's no jobs in your career
I
of
love that.
choice, and your parents are kicking you out of their basement, and Trump's still president, and it's just like, freaking end it.
But at least we can all laugh about
Yeah,
it.
There
yeah,
you go.
yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
But
That's
the
where
thing that I find kind
Go
of
in the
disturbing,
dump.
this one says calls customer service. Hi, I finished my free trial of adulthood and I'd like to cancel my subscription. The thing that I find kind of upsetting about it is that people realize at a young age that the worst go-to place is the death place.
death,
So when
yeah.
they're bullying each other online, even in middle school, they're saying things like, you should just die.
Yeah.
And some of those kids do.
Yeah.
So it's really dangerous. It's a dangerous place to go. And if you're not suicidal, I guess it's darkly funny. But how do we figure out who really does need help and who's just trying to be outrageous? Like, how do we figure out the difference?
You don't. I mean, until you start asking questions. Did anybody see the Sarah Silverman
The new special?
the Twitter exchange that was going on with her? It was Sarah Silverman's very outspoken and
Right.
very outspoken on her social media. She invariably will get trolls just banging right back at her and saying the worst possible thing. And there was one guy who responded to her literally with just one word, and it was the C word. And she actually wrote back to him. She went to this guy's profile. She went back through his Twitter feed. She saw where he was earlier complaining about how he was on painkillers. He had lost his insurance. He had incredible back pain. He hasn't been able to go to the hospital. She saw some really serious problems in his life. So she wrote to him saying, it sounds like you're in pain. I choose to love instead of, et cetera. They ended up in an exchange. He admitted on Twitter that he had been sexually abused at one point, and he was continuing to fight that he's tried to trust people and he never has. They got in this incredible conversation on Twitter.
Wow.
And she put out a plea for, hey, can somebody in the San Antonio, Texas area help this person with his back pain, et cetera? Somebody responded. They're getting him in touch with somebody to maybe get him back in the system and get his help.
Wow.
I'm just talking about
That's
it makes me
amazing.
go, okay.
Yeah.
So there's a little kind of sliver of hope of somebody saying, I'm not going to fall for the trolling. I'm not going to just block somebody. I'm going to, but that's a long
Or
process.
she's
That's a
just
really strong
encouraging
move.
people to call her the C word.
Hell.
It's like putting milk out for the stray
I know.
cat.
Hey,
No,
hey,
I'm
C-word,
joking.
I
I'm
don't
joking
have a car. Yeah.
that's such an amazing story.
It is.
That's
That's
great.
incredible.
Because
Go
most
find
people who
that.
troll are in a ton of pain.
Sure.
And that's
Well,
True.
exactly. And sometimes it's just emotional pain, and sometimes it's just you're closed off from the world. And that's that thing we've talked about here so many times, that it's just a way to anonymously express hatred and then think you can walk away and then you're not culpable for it.
well, because it feels it releases some endorphins in that moment. You press send and you're like, ha ha.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
Is that what it
Sounds
feels
like you've done this
Hey,
before.
world.
Yeah.
yeah, because
The enthusiasm.
Yeah.
there.
but it's like it's the modern equivalent of like hanging up on someone,
Right.
because you don't get to do that anymore. You now
Can't
have
do
to
that
just
with
be
the
like,
iPhone. Yeah.
and it's not
exactly.
as satisfying. as,
Damn.
you know what,
Yeah,
Mom?
yeah.
You know what?
yeah,
Click.
because when you slam down your iPhone, it cracks the screen.
It does.
And
But-
you're out
And it's
a
a you
couple hundred-
problem.
But I actually think, that story about, there's so many layers to that Sarah Silverman story, because it's also sort of telling anybody in the public eye who gets, and maybe especially females, because females get a whole other brand of hate that's misogynistic and all these other layers of stuff, especially females of color, etc. And so if that's saying, okay, you can really feel hurt by whatever somebody wrote, or you can read what they wrote and feel the sting and then say, this person is probably in a lot more pain than how this tweet made me feel. And maybe that would keep things from escalating.
Well, I have noticed at times that there is a proliferation of spreading of suicide hotlines and things in response to different social things that happen. Like on New Year's Day, the big YouTuber Jake Paul,
Oh, yeah.
he went to the Japanese suicide forest, found a dead body, filmed it, made jokes, whatever, posted the thing. It got like 600,000 likes before there was any problem with it. But then there was a big blowback. Like, you can't you can't just do that. That's a real person that actually killed themselves.
Yeah.
But in response to that, there are hundreds or thousands of tweets with all of the different suicide hotlines in different regions and areas. If this affected you, contact this. So there is some positive wave to counteract this stuff.
So
at
do
least.
you young people feel like what Dan just said, that whatever negative force that the internet creates, there'll be a twice as powerful positive force that comes back against?
Oh, I don't know
No.
if I went that far.
No, not at
No.
all. Not in the slightest.
Not in the slightest?
It's probably a fraction of a powerful.
Yeah, I mean, it pretty
positive
much mirrors what you see in the day-to-day. Most people don't bat an eye when small things go wrong, when someone calls someone a name. But when things escalate and they become stories, everyone pays attention at that point.
But
But
when
I
there's
think
a
doesn't undo the
baby in a
problem.
well, the whole village comes around.
Right, but
to
when
get-
it's but not everything that happens is a baby in a well, right? Like,
Sometimes it's a teenager in a well.
right, sure, but
With a
sometimes
bad
it's not
attitude.
as significant.
But I think
Leave
that
them in there another day.
it gives, like, the internet gives, or social media even gives a place for people to, like I said earlier, like find community. Like even with the Me Too movement, like, you know,
Yeah.
just solidarity between people who would have never maybe, you know, had the strength to come out or think that, you know, there were other
Absolutely.
people and, you know, with all of the women in Hollywood coming together to create a fund, you know, for other women so that they can, you know, fight against, you know, harassment and assault. You know, I think that as much negativity, there are spaces online, you know, for like kids, LGBT kids, to find community and to seek, you know, people who they can, you know, talk to. I think like there's good and there's bad, but
Yeah.
I think that, you know, it's important to acknowledge
It seems
both
to me that
sides.
the negativity might win the battle just in terms of sheer bulk, but
Yeah.
the force of the good, when the good is really good and that movement really happens, it might be a smaller number, but the residual effect might be
Yeah,
so
people
much
do a
more
lot more with
sincere.
Yeah.
Well,
It's
I would
realer.
like to think that the negativity is just a few negative people posting a lot,
It's posturing.
and the
right?
positivity is way more positive people posting once.
I like that.
Ah, that's good.
Let's hope so.
I don't know if that's accurate, but it's
Yeah.
a great way to look at it.
Yeah.
It's in all honesty.
Positive.
Well, no, I'm just trying to.
Just saying we don't have the numbers.
Negativity.
I was told there'd be no math.
Now we're getting into fractions.
I just think it's a little bit less of an ebb and a flow where each one counteracts the other, and more of just a magnifying glass where the sheer volume of people that can interact is higher. So whether it's good or it's bad, it's strong. Either way, I think.
Yeah.
Well,
it's-
Yeah.
part of it
That's
is
a good
what are
point.
you attracted to? Are you seeking out the negative stuff and getting involved in that, or because I know in my case, I barely even look at my own Facebook feed anymore. I go right to my pages feed because I can customize that to the things I really want to see, and except for the occasional, you know, dog rescue stories, which really is a bummer to see the picture, even though it ends up
Yeah,
positive.
yeah.
I'm tired of watching people bellyache all day.
Yeah.
Bellyache.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, how about, Larry, then, if we move on to subreddits?
Nice.
Will that lighten your mood?
We'll find out.
Let's go.
Because Dan was all over this one in advance of the show. He did some prep.
A little bit.
He did some show prep.
Way to go, Dan.
So do you have that visual? Dan, explain what you did, Dan.
I like it already.
I put myself up on Reddit's r roast me. I took a picture of myself in my Buffalo Bills jersey. Steve Tasker, look him up if you don't know him. He's the best
Yeah.
there ever was.
Scroll down a little bit.
You know,
This has been way more Buffalo Bills talk
Look-
than I
look at-
expected.
look at
today.
and still not enough, really.
Look at the penmanship on that Post-it. It says "roast me"
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
in pen ink.
Yeah,
And if you scroll down, people have taken the instructions.
you can
gotten
get some
toasted.
opinions here from the internet.
Wow.
Let's pick
I
some good
love
ones.
roast me.
So
Wow.
some that I found, and I'm sure it's accumulating, you know, by the minute, but some that I found that were pretty nice were Niedermeyer 519 wrote, "You're a Bills fan? Roast concluded."
Oh,
Yes, nicely.
Love that.
Nice little nuance.
Yep.
good.
And then the worst bartender wrote, "Your life somehow has more L's than a Bills season."
Ouch.
And then Dog Gangster wrote, "I loved you in Wonder Years."
I
Because you've
had
got
to-
that Fred Savage thing
I had to
going.
look it up just to be
Oh.
sure. I didn't know if that was a
Yeah,
quirky
very
joke
handsome.
or I guess it was a
No.
Fred Savage.
Yeah.
one there. Yeah. My favorite one, my favorite roast was only 2 words, and it said Scott Norwood. And for
Explain.
Scott Norwood.
he's the kicker that
Kicker.
lost the Buffalo
Oh.
Bills the first Super Bowl
Oh,
in
my
'91 with the
God.
wide left.
Know
And that-
your history,
That's
kids.
the only one that really hurt. People
We're
are trying to
learning
say
so
things,
much
infer
today.
things about my life, but just name one kicker, and I'll just
Wow.
move to the
Yeah,
Japanese
yeah.
suicide
Well,
forest. I don't know.
I'm from Buffalo, and Thomas, if you're watching at home, Thomas is from Rochester. You're from Rochester. You go to Syracuse. I don't know if you guys root for a team over in Syracuse.
Syracuse is like its own pocket where it's only Syracuse.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Donovan
All right.
McNabb went there. He's a great quarterback.
Yeah.
But
Ryan
Louise,
Nassif.
I'll actually do you one better.
Okay.
Not only am I from that general region, I grew up about 5 miles from Brockport, your alma mater.
Alma mater.
That's a thing that I found online. Hey.
There's also like
Hey.
in that region a lot less to be excited about. So you have to like get excited about the
In-
Bills, and then they disappoint
Well,
you.
in Brockport, what you do is you have the Erie Canal. End of list.
I would love to
End of
make.
college,
I
end of
would love
college.
to have a Buffalo insult right now. But
Yeah.
but you guys have. I mean, you're from there, so you've suffered enough.
Yeah.
Right, they live
Yeah.
exactly. They live in
It is.
Buffalo.
So
It's
I'm
that-
It
just
is
gonna,
true.
I'm gonna back off.
So what happened, Dan? Like the Bills, because I don't really pay attention. I mean,
Sure.
the Bills eked their way into the playoffs, I guess.
They
Somehow,
sure
and
did.
They
Sure.
did it the
They
only way
sure
Buffalo
did.
can. They let somebody else win a game.
Yay!
Yeah.
My God.
It's been 17 years since they were in the playoffs.
Okay.
Okay.
And so it should be a very exciting 1 week.
Who do they play?
Yeah, who do-
Jacksonville Jaguars
Jaguars,
at
okay.
Jacksonville. A comedian friend of mine, Jared Campbell, here in LA. His brother is a Jacksonville All-Star. He's a defensive tackle. So I've already started sort of like a text roast of each other.
What do you
It's
got?
going
What do
well.
you got? Can you read to us?
These have more expletives than the rhetoric post there.
Alrighty.
Yeah, how did you guys manage to find all the clean comments?
True, yeah.
We,
in the
That's why there's only 3.
I have,
Notice there were 3,
I have
right?
the child filter on my browser.
There was a long list, and we've heard
Yeah.
3.
All right.
Yeah.
No, not even a euphemism is going to work in that case.
Right.
All right.
So, do we have time for dating apps? I mean, I know
sure.
this
Have
is
to.
Yeah.
tapping into
Personally?
something very. Well, if you, do
Well,
you guys
somebody
want to
seems
talk about it?
interested.
Because Joe is married, Larry's
Yeah, my
married,
wife will
I'm
not let
married.
me get involved with dating apps.
Dan, are you married?
Basically.
Yeah.
All right.
So, Jilly, use
Yeah.
dating apps.
I tried. I've never been on an actual date. I downloaded a couple different ones.
I saw you
from a
flipping through some
friend.
pictures.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, you did.
Yeah,
actually.
we were, and
we did it
everyone that
together.
I said yes to, she
I
was
said
like, no.
absolutely not. Lucy.
Whoa, what was it? No, so what was the app?
Yeah,
Julie,
what
do
app
you
is it?
mind?
Okay, no, not at all.
Oh.
So I was with a friend, a girl who's a couple years older than me, and she said, "You're never gonna find a guy at USC. You need to date a guy who's a couple years older than you. And you need to download a dating app." And I
Boy,
was like,
that. By the way, that
Okay.
philosophy goes back to 1980 when I was there.
When you were there,
because,
yeah.
apparently, never mind. That's my problem.
which
Yeah.
But so then I downloaded and I was like, okay, like which dating app? There
Yeah.
are several. I was like, Tinder is just for hookups, whatever. She's like, you need to download J-Swipe. And I was like, okay, I'm not that Jewish, but
Not that Jewish.
like, no,
You're
I
Jewish.
dropped out.
I'm
No, I'm
Jewish enough to
Jewish.
swipe.
Yeah.
I dropped out of Hebrew school. Like I didn't have a bat mitzvah. See, like I literally
Right.
don't. Yeah.
But you
and
know it was
PS,
a bat
it's-
mitzvah,
it's
which is good.
Schweip.
Okay.
Jay
So
Schweitz.
she's like, no, she was like, it doesn't matter. You're gonna meet a nice Jewish boy. I'm
Yeah.
like, Jesus Christ. Okay.
Yeah.
So I download it, and she like helps me with
You were
my
schmying
whole,
around.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there we go.
Yeah.
And I download this whole thing, and she like helps me do my whole whatever. And the first match, it goes Mazel Tov, and like, like dancing, whatever. I'm like, I can't do this. I
It
can't
says
do this.
I'm
Yeah,
out.
it
Abort mission.
literally, you get like a spinning
then it's-
dreidel.
Oh, that's
like it's
hilarious.
too much. Yeah, and
Oh
I go,
my God.
I go, I can't do this, and she goes, yes, you can. And I go,
Persevere.
That
yeah,
is
literally like
Be strong, Joey.
persevere,
Funny.
like you can do it. And I'm like, oh, Jesus.
I'm so happy you were here to describe that because in the article I read, it just said you should see what happens when you get
I
a
know.
match.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
That's-
This is what
That
happens.
sounds like the most goy version of somebody designing a Jewish app. Going, let's take
true.
I
every
literally
like
felt-
top line
no, it was-
stereotype
Right.
and throw a dreidel in
A
there.
Yeah, it was
dreidel.
literally like, and like the bios were like, like my, my like grandma said I should be on. Like it was just like it was too much. But I tried it and I like talked to some guys. But I was just like, I cannot. Like, what am I supposed to do? Just like go meet somebody I like met online?
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
It's weird,
theoretically,
right?
yes. And then I talked to this guy I went to high school with actually a couple weeks ago, and he was like, he does all the apps. Like he does Bumble. He
Bumble.
does. There's so many now. There's
No,
like
I know
the
people
league,
who've got like
there's
3 or 4 on their phone at the same time.
Right,
That just
he
seems
does all
overwhelming.
of
like
them.
plate spinning.
We were talking at this party, and we're just friends, but he was like, "Are you dating anybody?" And I said, "No." And he was like, "Are you," like he like whispered to me, and he was like, "Are you on the dating apps?" And I said, No, not anymore. Like he was like asking me, and he's like, "No, don't worry, like I won't judge you." And I was like, no, like I would tell you if I was, like whatever.
Now I want to know the criteria that where you and Wheezy parted ways on the criteria.
I'll tell you.
Oh, yeah.
Because
what was the I think we just found different guys attractive.
It was purely
which is,
their faces.
yeah.
Well, but
There
that's all
was
it
the
is.
criteria.
That's the first.
Yeah.
Sure, it's all.
And that just goes to show you, if you're out there and you're wondering why people aren't swiping,
It's your face.
it's your
That's
your
right.
face.
It's
But-
your
Because of your face.
It's your dang face.
But
It
she
was your
would swipe
face.
left and I would swipe right on the same exact face. So
Interesting.
I
All
just
right.
don't.
Yeah.
I don't think a
But
picture.
that's okay. I
it's
mean,
not the
we don't
three-dimensional
have the
person.
same-
It's not their personality. It's
Right.
not
That's
how
the
they are.
problem. And
Well,
that's
no,
why
it's all
online
surface.
dating
Wouldn't it be the
doesn't
same
work.
if you were, forget the dating apps, and you were in a bar and you see a girl or a girl sees a guy across the room, you're still going off of appearance and face, right?
Yeah.
But there could be dancing
Yeah.
involved.
No,
I see some movement, maybe a
Could be your
preference
body.
of
Also-
It could be body. I didn't think of that.
yeah.
Oh my God! It could be the body.
Also, when you're in a bar or hanging out in a public place with someone, they usually don't look 20 years younger mysteriously.
Yes, exactly.
Oh,
than
well,
they
in
do.
that
They look like
lighting, though, they
themselves.
could.
Yeah, you're right.
Well,
Ryan,
it's dark.
any dating apps?
No, I'm not on the dating apps. Just a little weird for me. I don't know. I just don't love them. My parents use them. My mom doesn't anymore.
Wait,
She's,
hold on.
If you swipe
They're
right,
divorced, but then
if
so-
you swipe right and
Oh,
get your
okay.
mom,
Yeah.
Pump the brakes.
No,
that-
I've got
what's
then you
worse?
need to narrow your age
What's
range.
Yeah, I've
worse,
got the
swiping
age
right
filter down.
and getting your mom, or swiping right and getting your ex-wife?
or your dad. Which would be,
I've never heard that before. I'm not on dating apps, but my parents are.
my mom.
And he said it like it was a thing.
Yeah.
my mom.
Oh, look, there is a swingers app
I
right
will
here.
explain. If,
All right, you go ahead. Or do you just want to stop?
No, my mom met my stepdad on JDate,
right.
and my dad is on Bumble, and they're married, so she's not on it anymore. And
Are
my,
your parents like 22?
no, and my dad uses Bumble and everything.
Okay.
And I don't know. I mean, he's still not married, so I don't know how well it's working. But
I
you
think
know,
the older generations have a way better time on dating apps than
Why?
we do, because I think they actually use it seriously.
yeah, they
Oh.
think they're
And
gonna
we
date.
don't.
They think they're gonna date.
I think like
They're actually looking.
they're actually
Right.
looking for relationships.
They're not
Oh,
just
right. That's
they're not,
very
you
good.
guys are just
Like
trying to layer
me.
up, right?
I was like, and then I was like, I'm never gonna meet up.
I'll
with
tell
any of
you
these
why.
people.
Because if the last thing I would ever want to do right now at this time in my life is to think about dating again,
Yeah,
right? If for some reason, God forbid, Joe, we were single, wouldn't you just rather
Wait a
just-
minute. We're not a couple.
No, no. If you and
Oh,
I
I
split
see what
up,
you mean, yeah.
if you and I split up,
Yeah.
wouldn't you just rather die alone than have to go dating again?
And that's where memes come
Death
from.
meme.
And it comes
full
back around.
circle.
There's our podcast,
Come on,
everybody.
everybody.
Good night, everybody. But what Jilly is saying is like it's so tempting to see who else, because
Yeah.
you don't have to settle down yet. So there is this
there's
gamification
so
of
many.
it where you can
It's
level up by
crazy.
like
Yeah.
getting more hearts and likes in your inbox. It does feel like
Yeah.
you're playing a game.
And there's
Yeah.
exclusive ones. There's Raya,
Sure.
where you have to be approved. There's the League, where you have to go to an Ivy League school. There's
That's
like,
the most pretentious thing I've ever heard of in my life.
Is the league the one
Actually,
that's
I
hooked
think
into your
only the
LinkedIn
guys
profile?
do.
Oh,
Yeah, that's
God.
the
Yeah.
one. Only the guys have to go to Ivy Leagues.
Oh,
The
of
girls
course,
just have
yeah.
to.
Which is the one where the girl has to start the convo?
Bumble.
Okay, so is that good or bad?
I've heard mixed reviews. Because I think you have to reply in like 24 hours, and it's like this whole
Gamification.
thing.
Yep.
See?
So
No, it
Syracuse
is
was
like a
just called
game.
the
There's a
Harvard of
clock
upstate
ticking.
New York on Monday Night
By
Football.
whom?
Does that mean
What
that
was
I'm on that now?
Syracuse was?
Yeah.
Listen to the grammar she used as she challenged you.
I missed it. What?
It just said by whom.
By whom? By whom?
Cite your
By an
sources.
alumnus.
Cite your sources.
Hey, that's pretty good for a USC student.
Good. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there is a lot of real life experience that's left out of this conversation too,
Yeah.
because if you're forced to meet people in real life, you have to go through a lot more. You're challenged more,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
and in
You have
theory,
to
there's
shower
bigger
and-
rewards, right? But if you've already gone through that,
Right.
that's the thing, Larry, that you don't want to do again.
Well, I think for me, it does actually make sense. You're overwhelmed by just the sheer number of choices. There are fewer adults probably in that universe, so it's maybe it's a little more select. And you just don't want to have to do that much work
But
at
not
that
even-
point. That's a
it's
lot of
that.
emotional,
Because you've been there before. You've gone through, the starting
if
the
you
relationship
if
thing.
you can cut out the middleman.
But
and,
it's that.
Right.
But it's also, I think, like, as a 19-year-old, it's like, I don't know who I'm actually going to end up meeting, if this guy's going to be creepy. Because online, like, there's only so much you can filter or know by
Right.
a conversation, or even if you FaceTime with somebody or whatever. So if I'm going to go and, like, meet somebody, in my mind, that seems way creepier to me, even meeting them online, even though if I was, at a party and just met somebody randomly, for some reason to me, it seems way different.
Well, because at that point you know that this is
It's
a
like by
human who's engaged with
association.
society,
Right.
and not
Not
he
just
only
on.
leaves his mother's basement to
There
go
we
on
go.
your date.
That's you're 100% right. Thank you.
You
just
did get a little
thank
more
you.
info
No,
there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right. No,
They
you're
have
100%
installed a
right.
shower down there. So.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. Actually,
Wow.
that's why.
I think if you're an adult too, and I could be wrong because I'm not that much of an adult, but there's probably a little bit of comfort in knowing that people who are on the apps like you are in the same boat as you. Whereas you're young,
Yeah.
not everyone maybe has been in like a serious relationship or whatnot, or maybe they're not looking for that. But as an adult, it feels like maybe you're on the same page as everyone
Yeah,
else.
and I also think there's maybe a little bit more of a commitment to it if you're an adult, an older adult, whatever, is that I'm here for a reason because I want companionship or
Right.
I'm here to meet someone.
Yeah.
Okay.
And dating is such a tricky thing too, because once you've been married and once you are married to the right person, it's sort of like bricks. Like your relationship is these bricks, and then all of the flaws that they have accepted are the mortar in between the bricks.
Good one.
They kind of hold you together, and it's like, who else would put up with this?
Yeah.
So, so you just don't want to have to do that again.
Yeah.
Like that whole thing that kind of just melds you to another person. Like,
Yeah.
oh, we're doing life and we figured out how to do the covers. You get these pillows, I'll take these.
Well, see,
that's like a whole
it.
thing.
I've been
true.
married.
Really
how long
making
have you been
dating sound
married,
great.
Joe?
I've been married 39 years.
Yeah, I've been married 30 years. That's a lot of brick building.
Yeah.
and
It's a lot of bricks.
to even
telling you.
again,
Yeah.
the point is moot. I mean, I'm pretty sure she's not booting me out anytime soon.
No.
But things can change because I'm not that great to live with. You guys can see that, right? But just again, dying alone sounds so much better than the dating app. Not
Yeah, I
being
got
married.
it. Yeah.
I was very confused for a second, but I figured
I
you'd
want
come
to make
back
it
to
very
it.
And
clear,
we're-
especially if
It's like,
Charlotte's
I'm
watching
just
this
gonna
right
let
Oh, my
now.
God.
I am very happy.
There's a meme. There's a meme for this, Charla.
Yes.
Jake, explain BitTorrent.
Ah.
All right.
Oh,
so,
yeah,
So
okay.
Jakey, he goes to Harvey Mudd. He's smarty pants, and he understands exactly how to steal things from the internet.
Oh,
My son
This
was
is
into
being
that for
put
many
online,
years.
and I would like to. I'll take the title of Smarty Pants, but I
Okay.
will not take the title of online stealing person.
All
there
right.
you
So
go.
explain BitTorrent and
BitTorrent on a technical level
Yes.
is a protocol. That's the same thing as being able to put in a URL and getting a website. It's like a boring paper kind of someone probably did a master's thesis all about this, right? Whereas in reality, it's boring computers talking ones and zeros back and forth. What it allows you to do is very easily share files from people. So regularly when you want to download a movie, you go to Netflix, you go to Apple, you go to Amazon, you go to one of these other multi-billion-dollar corporation whatevers, and you download it from them. But the way BitTorrent works is that it's a whole cluster of people who have a file already somehow.
From
is
each
it
other.
Napster-esque
Give it to each other.
It is. That's what
Yes,
Napster
exactly.
was
Okay,
at the
go
very
ahead.
beginning.
So it
Right.
relates very heavily with early day piracy
Yeah.
concepts of it is not I'm trying to steal from this company. It is I am sharing a file
Yes.
with another person.
Yeah.
And,
and,
of course,
it's the source of where most of the piracy investigations come from, right?
Yes.
That's what they're constantly trying to track to see where these sources are, and if you're going to get your door, beaten down by the piracy police, I don't know.
Here
Is
they
there a
come.
technical term, the PP. It's coming from stuff. It's regularly going to those sources, right?
Yeah, more often than not, because it is resilient to most other forms of things. Like if there's a website, you might notice if you try to stream online content, every month you have to find a new place that hosts it. Because if I have a website where I'm like, hi, come take my stolen merchandise, they'll shut me down.
Right.
But
Right.
it's really hard to shut down individual people. So that's where the majority of the current technical effort to try to stop online piracy.
There's a
is.
whole new, a whole other compliance level because then you're really involved with it. Besides just downloading something, you're also the source for any number of other people uploading for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Or from you, rather.
Yeah,
There's
you're
a
like, I'm
legal
taking part in
implication
this.
Yeah.
of there's a difference between downloading a file file and uploading a file.
Right.
There's a word for people who only download and don't upload, and it's leechers.
Oh, I thought it was like assholes. Okay,
Yeah.
So
There you go.
are you willing to share how you use it and why you think it's ethically
Anonymously?
or
No, I will
morally
not.
okay?
I will
No,
not share
not
how I
sharing
use
that,
it.
no.
But I'm certainly willing to share an alternative
Who other
story
people?
of other people's experiences that are totally not mine. Yeah.
Right.
How would one
Yeah.
use
I'm
it?
guessing movies,
So-
right?
How would
yeah,
one?
so
music.
I
hypothetical we
live in a dorm that really enjoys movies. Every week we have 2 different movie events for bad movies and one for good movies.
I love
so
that.
That's
Two
fun.
bads
Yeah.
equal a good.
Exactly. So every week we have to get 3 movies for the dorm, and we're college students. We don't have like money and stuff. So in order to supply our dorm with fun, interesting, quirky, weird movies, especially the weird ones, like if
Yeah.
we want to get a weird movie,
Give us a good
That's-
example.
there's a movie called Zizek's Road.
Oh, I know that.
Oh.
On the
Yes.
way to Vegas.
Yeah, on the way
How
to
do
Vegas.
you know that?
I don't know, from somewhere. I remember hearing about that.
Did
yeah.
you do
Yeah.
did you do the trailer for it?
I did that.
Starring the entire population of Zizek.
Zizek. Yeah.
So
Both of them.
Zizek's Road is a nightmare to watch. There's nothing good about it. It's like if someone had only ever read like 2 weird sci-fi books ever, and then tried to write a screenplay where they're like, she's an alien, and then it's like, nah, she's not an alien. It's in his head. And it's like, oh no, it wasn't in her head the whole time. It's like the ending of the movie. Like they tried to do a clever thing where it's like, ooh, spoilers, spoilers.
I might want to watch
Spoilers
this terrible
for
movie.
Zizek's Road. At the end of the movie, I'll keep it spoiler free.
Okay.
They try to do a thing that's like a weird subversion. Oh, you thought this thing all along, but it's not that.
Yank.
But the logic is wrong, and it implies that neither of the 2 realities actually works out with the logic of the film. It contradicts itself.
Oh
Anyway.
my God.
Zizek's Road's a different example because
Okay.
we actually had to drive to a library for another university far away to get a DVD of the copy, which we then
Wow.
ripped because we
And
couldn't
you
find
ripped
it
it.
legally or illegally online.
What's
Wow.
Prue's intent?
Yes.
Wow.
Okay.
Now,
so
what about an example of a good movie
Oh.
that was?
Yeah, you do like blockbusters, like new movies?
Yeah, so we
Careful,
do
this
new
is not
movies.
you.
This is not me.
No.
I have never been personally involved.
That
in
was the
acquiring
royal
films.
we.
Yes.
Yes.
I have
Again,
watched movies.
hypothetical.
Well, he is the voice of millennials.
He's the
so
one.
I'm the
it's-
millennial,
it's
that's
the
true.
Every millennial is
Yeah.
doing this.
Yeah, arrest all of us. But so yeah, we do watch good movies. We aren't so big on the blockbuster releases. We usually go to the actual like theater for that because there's a little cute independent theater in our town. that we
A
always
cute
love going to.
independent theater where you see
Yeah.
major blockbuster movies? That's great. That's good.
Yeah. So that's BitTorrent helps
So-
poor college students get
Yeah.
fun
Which-
activities.
And it's been around. So, like you
For
said,
a long
I mean,
time.
Oh, yeah.
Napster was what? Was it 80s or 90s?
That
I
was
guess it was,
90s.
it was early
That was
90s.
90s.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it brings
Late
me
90s.
to our next
Yeah.
point, which is that what Jake feels like the model should be is that we should voluntarily support things we enjoy, which brings us to Patreon. Anyone in the room understand or
Patreon.
familiar
I
with
know
Patreon?
exactly
Yeah.
what that is. I just looked at it today, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
Ralph Garman, one of our fellow radio fellows,
Yeah.
who recently had to leave his radio job, is
Oh, yeah, I saw
launching
that.
his own Ralph Report, and he's doing it on Patreon. It's basically a
Give us an overview. I don't know.
from what I understand about Patreon, it's basically a platform for people to create their own stuff, and it supports you in a way that it gives you the tools, but it only takes a tiny percentage of what your ultimate.
And
They
is it
actually
there-
just raised their percentage this year. It's not tiny
Oh, they
anymore,
did?
unfortunately.
All right,
So,
so
is it
can you
audio
click
and
on an
video?
example, Dina?
It can be anything. It can be
There
a
it is.
blog post.
Virtually
Okay,
anything.
gotcha.
So as you're looking
Oh,
at
it
our
could be a
screen,
blog.
Anything,
this is like more of a resume quality version of GoFundMe. So it's just like kind of fancier, but it's really
Yeah, it is
just
fancy. It just looks very
it's like
mainstream.
saying, "Hey,
yeah.
I'm a thing, and I work really hard to create this content for you. And if you're a fan, you can voluntarily choose to support me."
Right. So it's set up very much like Kickstarter, even looks sort of like Kickstarter. How it's different is that it's on a subscription basis. So you could do it once a month, you get this money, or once per post, which is where some people find a bit of an issue with it, because if you need some money, you just post 3 really crappy things.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, I have these, and every time you post, all of your supporters are just automatically charged.
But it's
So
like
there's
Oh,
trust
wow.
involved, but
there's trust
it's,
involved, but
it's a
it's
good
like
thing.
it's like PBS is doing that now, where it's like we don't need to have to remind you every year to make your pledge.
Be a monthly
just
donor.
but like if you're at a certain point in your life where you can afford this and you really enjoy this.
When do we get to that certain point in life? I'm wondering.
You're there, Joe.
Oh, okay. All right.
Joe,
Thank you. I don't
you're
know
the
about
guy.
that. I'm not
Who
sure.
you should be supporting PBS.
Okay,
Mr.
I'm sorry. I stepped right in that one. Thank
All right.
you.
But
Yeah.
that is a model for a lot of MaximumFun.org
Yeah,
is
Maximum
one.
Fun.
Jesse Thorne started that, and they do have advertisers, but they also do a regular. They try and minimize the number of ads, and they're very specific about it. And also, they ask for kind of listener loyalty, and once a year they do kind of a lot of bonus content and a fund drive where you basically commit to a monthly.
Yeah, and they do that on
charge.
Slate too, because I've been listening to Slow Burn, the Watergate podcast, and they're like, if you're a pro member, you'll get this extra content, and if it's stuff that you really want, you're like, oh yeah, I'll sign up for
Well,
that.
especially for stuff that's free, like podcasts for the most part are free, other than having to listen to ads. But if you, it's the same PBS model, which is if you're getting this stuff and you want them to be able to maintain that specific type of
Support
programming,
them.
$5 a month is more than worth it.
But it is funny. I mean, you had the example we just saw on screen was Ali Spagnola, who is a big YouTuber, and she monetizes her videos anyway. So she has probably a relatively sizable income from YouTube, and she's also, as we just saw, getting $1,250 per video post, just straight up cash up front.
If she works hard and she's good, then
which she is.
She's worth it, right?
Yeah. Wow.
There's been a big push recently among YouTubers to try to move away from YouTube monetized content. I don't know if people have heard about this, but there's a lot of instability that comes with the YouTube model.
Yes.
Like, it's one place where most video content is being monetized from, and their advertising policies, at least in terms of like independent users, is not so great. So a lot of these people, while like, yes, it may have worked in the past to just have like a free front roll ad or a little banner ad or whatever, a lot of people are suddenly having a lot less income from these advertising sources and are trying to move to things like Patreon, because not only then do they have a more reliable income where they can see like this much per month ahead of time even, they can also get rid of ads, which is a thing that at least
that is
all
great.
of us, I think, can agree is
And it's difficult, I
Certainly.
think, in the YouTube model, because I have a friend, Max Cook, who had just basically posted about that. He said, my income from... He had a pretty good following from stuff he was doing, and it's just suddenly dipped down. He just basically was notified by YouTube. It's you're not. It just got slashed, and he doesn't have the ability to kind of go in and audit the books. He has to kind of trust what they're telling him is the truth, and there's no reason to think he's trying to get ripped off. But I think as that world gets more and more watered down and there's just more and more content, it's not unreasonable to expect that model is not going to pay off in the long term.
So while we're
very
talking about ads, if you would like
Things
If
I
you-
found online.
if you would like to be the proud owner
Oh, wow.
of a Things I Found Online mouse pad.
By the way, looking at that on screen, is that a handkerchief that you're holding up? I'm not sure
it's a
what
mouse
it is.
pad.
Oh, it's a mouse pad.
Yeah,
Thank you.
And
Which, since we're on the Millennial Day, these three are still like, so
Do you
what
guys-
is it though?
It's a handkerchief.
What is it?
so if you're using a trackpad or your phone, this will hold
Does anybody
a
use
very large drink as a coaster. It works really well.
If
So
you still have a desktop computer,
And
then
we're-
it might
What?
come in handy. Yeah, desktop computer.
if you'd like to
Please.
own this mouse pad,
Yes, please tell.
go
on.
to iTunes and give us a review.
Okay.
And give us a nice review,
Nice.
and then go into our Facebook page, which is TIFO. What's our Facebook page?
Things I found online.
Things I Found
podcast.
Online Well, you're
Podcast.
probably watching on that Facebook page right now, but Things I Found Online, and comment on this video that I reviewed your podcast. Send me a mouse pad, and the first 10 to do that are gonna get a mouse pad,
mouse pad.
and I'm gonna know where you live. So,
Wow.
so
That's an
and
added
we're-
bonus.
Which is
It's
worse.
a win-win.
and we're
Which
ordering.
is worse.
We're ordering.
And also, if you can add roast Dan and
Roast
and
Dan,
Buffalo.
yeah.
Oh,
Sure.
yeah.
Always roast Dan.
Yeah.
Just go ahead and
We-
toss that in there.
We've ordered phone pockets, and you stick them on the back of your phone, and you can put money or credit cards in there, and I'll show those to you next week when they arrive. And
Do
then
they come filled with money and
Filled with
and-
money.
and
Are
credit
you-
cards?
Are you- Cash and prizes.
still using the smartphones? Is that still a thing? Do you have the smartphones?
For now.
Okay.
So let's close this out. Let's close this out with a good old-fashioned conversation about net neutrality. Who's in?
Oh,
Oh
okay.
yeah, give me some of
Yes.
that.
All right. Because
go.
I've amassed like such an incredible panel, and I just want to hear your thoughts. Who wants to start it off?
I'm guessing Harvey Mudd has something
this feels
to
like a
say.
Jake.
I'm just guessing.
Yes.
Mr. Smarty
Yeah,
Pants.
so I took computer networks this year, where basically the
Of
whole
course
thing
you did.
was like, how do you manage the internet? That was like the entire class, basically.
Wow.
And we had a really interesting discussion about this, where like it's clear that here in our like oligarchy-run country, where there's like 4 big cable companies and they're giving you internet, it's very clear that they're just being greedy and trying to steal from you. But there is a legitimate argument for not using net neutrality as a principle. There are really like there's a whole bunch of stuff going over the internet. Like it's terrifying to think about just how much data is constantly flowing, and it's not just like that data is like, oh, I wanted a movie, I have it now, but it's like every person after like work goes home and watches Netflix now, and if you watch the same episode like again, they just send it to you again. Like Netflix is crazy and it uses like 30-40% of the internet now. But there's lots of traffic
amazing.
that is priority and non-priority. So there's this kind of issue of like, if I'm downloading a really big file, I don't care really, like if it's going to take like 3 hours, I don't care if it takes 4 hours. That's trivial compared to if I want to like watch a video right now. I need it to load in like 4 seconds or I'm not going to watch it at all.
Stop
Right.
freezing, Mrs. Maisel!
So
I'm good now.
Good.
there's a legitimate argument for, hey, flagging packets as priority or not feels kind of important. And actually, the internet started with the ability to do that. It's that no one did it, or they flagged every single one of their packets as priority because they're like, I'm better than you, I want priority.
And isn't that the problem, though? Is who's deciding what is priority?
the problem.
Exactly. So
Right.
we first started with this kind of open system that actually did enforce priority. People started not caring about it because everyone flagged their own packets priority because we left it up to the users to say, hey, is your stuff priority?
It's
So everyone's like,
important
I'm
stuff.
priority.
Yeah.
And then it fell apart. But now we're saying, if we're not going to have this, let's switch to a better system where money picks priority, which is like worse somehow than the other one.
Yes,
So
it is.
there is a legitimate like algorithmic argument. It's still in debate, but whether or not we should give priority to some things over others, it's that like certainly I don't want Comcast. Who's your actual internet provider who's helping this video get made?
I think
Not
it's
anymore. We just
Spectrum.
went black.
Okay.
They keep getting bought, but currently I think it's Spectrum.
Okay, yeah. So
I don't think they're listening
cool.
right now.
Nah.
Everyone else, I don't want them picking based upon how much money I have, what's priority and what's not.
Right.
Yeah, certainly. There was. Go ahead.
I was just going to say along the lines of like these companies are historically like very selfish. I mean, there was the story a while ago of the guy whose house burned down and Comcast wouldn't let him cancel his subscription. So he had no house and they
my
were charging him
God.
for cable
Right.
service.
Yeah.
Like they left him on hold for like 3 days, like something ridiculous. And that's not the people we want choosing how this goes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I still have a Time Warner account and they don't even exist anymore. So,
Right.
Yeah. Somebody's taking that money.
I found a really good thread on Twitter from user @JTM_, where he says, I'm tired of the net neutrality meme saying if it passes, you'll pay $15 a month for Twitter and 10 cents per Google search, because that's absolutely not what's going to happen, and we should try to educate people with the real deal. It's a whole thread. It's great. I'll send it to you guys. Maybe
Okay,
retweet it.
cool.
But a bit of my favorite part in here, he talks about how it's not about the big boys. It's not about Netflix and Twitter and these things. It's about the small independents. There won't be any room for them if these major corporations get to decide
Gobble it
who's
all up.
priority.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He says, loop back to my original point, the end of net neutrality doesn't mean you'll pay for Twitter and Google because they'll be in the base package. But small actors, new little startups, will need to pay massive fees to telecos to get onto that base package, short of which they'll be completely invisible.
Chase
so you
White.
want to launch
Not
a new
even.
I'm okay with
video
that part.
service, cool, but you got to pay 20%.
Impacts innovation.
Yeah.
So you won't be able to innovate, and that's the only power. That's the true power of capitalism. Is the best system wins. So without net neutrality, you can't find the best new system, and that to me was the thing I connected with the most. That is why I think we need it.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I think I agree with all points.
To
I
protect
think,
our ingenuity, yeah.
yeah, we need to figure out some sort of way to move forward and like what Jake was saying, making sure that, because there is so much content and so much information, but I think, controlling parts of the internet for the consumer or monetizing it is like very scary.
I think one of the things we've all learned in the past year is how much of our society intersects with politics, policy, and our elected officials, and how important it is to become a part of the solution, which is to vote and to register to vote and to have a voice, or to even be active in your community for the causes that are important to you. You know, everybody has, some people are one issue voters, and some people are like, oh, well, I'd like to breathe the air, and I'd like to drink the water, and I'd like to use the internet. And it's like, oh, you know, when you're a kid, you kind of take a lot of that stuff for granted. And one of the things that happens when you start adulting is like, oh, maybe I could form a group and we could discuss these issues and we could decide what we're going to do about it. Like, what can we do? What can people do to make a difference moving forward and make life better for everyone?
Yeah.
And I think to jump onto that, also, it's really critical that you don't rely on necessarily what's coming through your feed to educate yourself, because there are much more reasonable. Contact Harvey Mudd and find out. I mean, do a little further due diligence on figuring out what the source of your information is, because you could get widely varying. I mean, even just this discussion about net neutrality gives a lot of different, pieces of information, and the fact is nobody really knows exactly how it's going to affect you until it's either legislated or somebody kind of wraps their head around it, and people have hopefully a chance to actually vote on something.
Yeah, because like the first instinct could be to post a fatalistic meme, and then the second instinct should be, let me organize. Let me be a leader of tomorrow. Let me organize. How can I make life better? How can I feel like posting a meme of puppies with flowers and a rainbow coming out of their asses? Like that's
always my go-to.
That's where we want to get.
That's where we want to get, right?
Yeah.
Or
Thomas is. I'm sorry, John. Could you Google that and see if that
exists?
That would be a great way to go out.
What did I just
I'd
describe?
swipe right on that.
I've already blocked it out of my mind.
Is there a meme with puppies with rainbows coming out of their asses?
There's got to be.
It's the internet.
If there's a puppy who farts
exists.
rainbows, then
Definitely
it's going
it exists
to be,
with unicorns.
It's going to be an okay
See if
tomorrow.
it's
Thank goodness we have the
Definitely.
freedom to search for that. Yes.
A puppy
Right
who
now.
farts.
For now.
Well, if that's
Well, yeah, but not very quickly.
Yeah.
There we go.
Oh, there we
Is that
go.
true innovation?
Yay!
Is that true innovation or
It's
net
going
neutrality?
okay tomorrow.
We don't-
I like the meme. Farts out a rainbow.
Farts out a rainbow.
Boy.
Yay, I want to thank my panel.
Magical rainbow dogs.
Joe Cipriano, Larry Morgan, Dan Lawler, Julie Halperin, Ryan Tabb, Jake Palanker. I'm Louise Palanker. And hey, did I give a shout out to Scott? Scott Leslie is in the studio.
Yes.
John Maddox and Dina is our magical filling in for Thomas and
How about that?
Austin. And please write us a review and earn your own
Mouse pad.
Coaster.
Yeah.
Handkerchief.
Coaster.
Get it. Or a very tiny placemat.
And we'll see you next week. Bye-bye, everybody.